this is a very interesting discussion. I'm excited to hear your reaction to it, Zach. And yeah, I guess without further ado, let's get right into it. It's about these 4th of July LARPers from, I forget which country. I think it's Sweden. I want to say Sweden. But this Poland, sorry, my bad. I don't know why I said Sweden. You're right, Poland. Anyway, this conversation, this debate goes a little bit off the rails. So that's definitely a little bit spicy. It's interesting to watch Anna and Cenk go at it. But it's also interesting just as far as the substance goes. I'm really genuinely interested to get your take on this one, Zach, as far as where you come down on the argument. Because again, I thought this was a fascinating discussion.
A group of Polish live-action role players, or LARPers, has held a not so flattering mirror up to America by role-playing Ohioans at a 4th of July celebration. Now, this first went viral, by the way, back in May when the 4th of July LARP cruise photos were spread on Twitter. But now we have more insight thanks to an interview with the group's leader. And Vice spoke to the group's leader, and his thoughts are super interesting. First, what kind of research did they do to engage in this live action role playing of Americans in Ohio? Well, Bartosz Bruschi, and yes, that is his name, unwinds by heading to a trailer park outside Warsaw, where he directs a group of around 60 Polish people who pretend to be ordinary Americans, people from Ohio to be exact.
I just want to chime in and say it's a little strange he doesn't unwind over a few brewskis.
Enthusiasts turn a peaceful holiday resort in a Polish forest into an American trailer park with dozens of participants who stay in character with their assigned family, living at their assigned trailer home for 28 hours at a time. Let me just pause for a second and say, who has 28 hours to spare to like role play people from another country? Like,
no, it's more amazing than that. They write scripts. They had 700 pages of scripts. They get together and they choreograph this. It is amazing what they do. And I like that it was like 28 hours. So random. Anyway, and they say where it came from. They were watching Stranger Things and X-Files, and they wanted to kind of recreate Stranger Things. But then as they went into it, they were trying to find a place that looked like America and needed to be a little bit more woodsy. And then they find this place and they're like, it's not quite right for Stranger Things, but it does look like it could be a good trailer park, like in the middle of Ohio. So they turned it into a trailer park, etc. And to me though, so I love this story.
I hate it.
It's super interesting. So apparently we'll debate that in a second.
Yeah.
But the fact that they put so much time and effort into it, I'm kind of amazed by it.
Yeah, it's awesome that they put so much time and effort into mocking Americans, and
but we deserve it.
Do we though? Do it like we're not all the same. It's a country of literally hundreds of millions of people, and like, yeah, you're referencing one group of Americans in the middle of the country, and kind of making a generalization about Americans overall, and I don't like it. Like, we're fighting, like we need solidarity internationally, right? Like I get it, the criticisms and the critique of our systems makes all the sense in the world. But I don't look at these pictures and think to myself like, oh, this is great. I feel really great about this. No, I don't feel very great about it at all. Like,
I'll tell you why I liked it, Anna. Because so here, I'll read you a paragraph from the interview that they did with the leader of this group, that Vice did. He said, we grew up with he explained how he read a bunch of things about America.
I know. He read that America was so great, and it turns out that America is not so great. So let's mock them by doing this like LARP thing of Ohioans. And by the way, specific Ohioans in a trailer park, and make generalizations about Americans who, by the way, huge portion of Americans have been fighting tooth and nail against the people in positions of power who have screwed us time and time again.
But
right,
okay, let me read the paragraph and then say why I like it. He said, we grew up with a vision of the States as if it's the land of milk and honey. Then when you grow up and information is shared more, it turns out that it's not so nice in the States. We came up with the idea of this broken American dream, and this was the motif for the project.
Yeah, and for fun, we just mock them for 28 hours at a time.
No, but Anna, no, but look, the reason why it's important is because American media, most importantly in this case, the movies, did an amazing job of presenting a completely false version of America. So the rest of the world thinks, oh my God, America is so amazing. You guys got it made there. But what he explains later in the interview is, then when I read into it, I realized, oh my God, they don't even have health care. And sometimes they just let people die if they don't have health insurance. To people in Poland, that is so barbaric, it shocked their conscience. They're like, did you know that Americans, like the government will just let you die if you don't pay a ransom to private insurance? And then now they know more about guns and our gun culture, right? But he says that he did not know the scale of the massacres in America that were continual. And I think most of the world doesn't know about that. And if they knew about it, maybe it could help in some way.
I'm pretty sure we're the laughing stock of the international community, okay? Especially considering, we have a mass shooting in a school in Texas and we do nothing about it, but Canada decides to respond to it instead and pass gun control regulations in their country. Like, I'm pretty sure internationally we're a punching bag because of our elected officials, I guess we deserve it, right? But for me, it adds insult to injury to see these images of Americans being mocked when we're all freaking suffering under this oppressive, terrible, corrupt political system. That's the part that I don't like. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Everybody knows that I'm not super sympathetic to either of these individuals' commentary when it comes to politics, right? And I actually went into this cold. Gavin told me about this clip, but I didn't watch it because I wanted to react to it live on air. I actually find myself, I think that while I totally get it and that I think America deserves mockery in general, I do think we deserve mockery in general, and have at it with our politicians and have at it with our celebrity class and have at it with anybody with real power in this country. They haven't shown a lot of the imagery in this clip of like how exactly it looks. So I'm trying to imagine, but I am really sympathetic to the argument. Oh yeah.
They're about to show some.
Yeah, they'll show some in a second. Okay, but what I am really sympathetic to right here, and I think that Anna really struck a chord with me. I actually appreciated what she said here was, look, I don't like the idea that people are going to like let's not take the most vulnerable Americans. Let's not take the people who are suffering. And we've talked about it so many times on our show. Like, we don't voter shame. We don't, like, people are fucking poor in this country. They don't have time to necessarily wade through the intricacies of everything. They know they've been fucked by everybody. So most poor people just stay home. And yeah, sometimes they go down the culture war rabbit hole that Gavin and I massively disagree with. But I don't like this idea of like making fun of those people. One, it's a bad look for the left to not empathize with all people of poverty, and just, yes, you can, slander them for some of the disagreements that we have. But the idea is that these aren't the people that are really responsible for what's happening in America. They're not responsible for, even though the media will blame them for it. They're just victims of the mechanisms that of the system that got them there as well. And as much as we're like broad critical of the system as leftists, I think we have to incorporate that into our understanding of this. And that's why I do kind of feel where Anna's coming from on this, because my initial instinct is to be in Team Cenk and be like, yeah, fuck America. I'm embarrassed to be an American. If you've had the opportunity to travel abroad while Trump was president, you know that we are the laughing stock of the world, that people will mock you for it and all these things. And I don't really have a problem with that. If you have the affluence to travel across the globe, you're probably doing all right, at least getting by. And so that's all fine. But what I do, have a problem with and take a little bit of an issue with is when you come after specifically poor people, and poor people from anywhere, right? If this was like a, LARPing as like, poor people in, fucking Mexico, or, poor people in, Sierra Leone or anything like that, I think everybody would have a problem with it. And so obviously I don't think it's as deeply offensive as that. But I do think that it's kind of like, comedy from a bad place, in my opinion.
Interesting. Yeah, I have a bit of a difference of opinion there, and mostly just because I don't really think they're making fun or mocking people. And we'll look at the photos here in a second, so you can decide for yourself, Zach. But I don't really see this so much as mocking. I mean, by their own terminology, they're LARPing, so they're role playing. But when you're role playing or LARPing is something, that doesn't necessarily mean you're mocking it, right? And honestly, this whole conversation actually reminds me of one of my favorite filmmakers, Lars von Trier. He's from Denmark, and a lot of his movies have to do with America, and specifically this film he made called Dogville, which came out in the early 2000s. It's one of the best films of the early 2000s, in my opinion. Highly recommend everyone watch it. But he got some criticism because Lars von Trier had actually himself never been to America. He'd never set foot in the United States, yet he was making all of these films as someone from Denmark about the United States of America. And I just wanted to quickly put up a quote on screen that he said to address this criticism. He said, "A big part of our lives has to do with America. In our country, it is overwhelming. I feel there could just as well be an American military presence in Denmark. We are a nation under a very bad influence because I think Bush is an asshole and doing a lot of really stupid things. America is sitting on the world, and therefore I'm making films about it. I say 60% of the things I've experienced in my life are American, so I am in fact an American, but I can't go there and vote. That is why I'm making films about America." And again, that's talking about his movie Dogville, which was very critical of America, and not just its politicians, but of American culture in general. And I think it's 100% accurate. Just because you don't live here, even if you've never visited here, American influence, culture, and obviously military presence is felt all around the world. It is a massive part of anyone's life. So I think it's completely fair game to make art about it, whether that's, your fucking weird LARPing or role playing, or whether it's making a film like Dogville, which directly attacks the hypocrisies at the heart of our, American dream and American friendliness, so to speak. So, I think it's all fair game, but maybe we should take a look at the photos themselves and, take in a little bit more of this debate. Huh?
Yeah. Totally down to take in more of it. And I do appreciate a lot of what Lars says here, and the fact that, like, I had a friend from, the Baltics one time, and he was like, American culture is the world's culture, essentially. But yeah, let's go ahead and finish playing out this clip really quickly, and then we can react to some more.
I don't know that they're mocking us.
Okay, let's look at the pictures that they posted themselves.
Okay.
So check out their Facebook page. That's where they posted these images. And I just don't like it. I'm sorry. Okay,
but tell me it isn't true. Okay.
That is not true.
That
of
looks
most
better than
Americans.
real life. And in fact, they said they got critique from actual Americans and said, no, you guys look healthier, slimmer. It's way cleaner than it would normally be. There'd be a lot more garbage, etc. Like, but Anna, is this not happening in the country? It definitely is. But no, I honestly think you have a skewed version of what the rest of the world sees. The rest of the world does not see the disaster of America. So now it's a little bit more.
Did you see the photos?
Yeah, I saw the photos.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of, look, so I see the people in the comment section that are making a great point. Like, how can Americans be bitter when, we do this to the world all the time. We mock the world and we make we make fun of them. And that was like all of American culture up until about 10 years ago, right? Was just mocking the rest of the world. Rah, rah, America's better than you. So of course we deserve a taste of our own medicine. Absolutely. And I'm not trying to pearl clutch or say these people don't have the right to do that. I'm just saying that in a way I wasn't expecting to. I am sympathetic to Anna's argument because I don't like the idea of just going out and role playing the lives of poor people for like your amusement. Like that is a real life that entails all kinds of, vastness that the rest of the human experience has and all these kinds of things. And I don't want to undermine that. And I don't want to like play that up in a way that's like not serious. Not that they don't have the right to do it, but I just, from my own perspective, like these are people who do suffer, like living in a trailer and then like having the gag be like, oh, these people live around way more trash than you guys think. Like, oh, like, I don't know. I just think that to some extent, I am sympathetic to the fact that like, that might not be like the nicest thing to do. Not setting aside the fact that of course they have every right to do it. They can make fun of us all they want. I just think that, yeah, sometimes picking the right target and punching down is not always like I just would have, I don't know. That's somewhat of the vibe I get. And again, they have every right to do that. They can make fun of anybody we want. God knows America has earned the reputation of being the fucking like worst of the worst on the block. We make fun of everybody. We were, horrible after 9/11 to making fun of the entire Muslim community. Of course, we deserve all this kind of stuff. It's just, I don't know, man. I didn't think it was right then, and I don't necessarily think it's right now.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the argument, but again, when I see these photos, especially these ones, I think of like fucking Duck Dynasty, and that was, monetized massively on TV, huge part of American culture for years and years and years. How is that not fair game to make fun of? You know what I'm saying?
Well, those were rich people LARPing as like people from the South. Those were millionaires that made Duck Dynasty, and they were basically LARPing. Agreed.
And that's the image that's projected to the rest of the world is what America is. So that's pretty fair game as far as satirization goes, at least in my opinion. But I definitely get the point. I think if it was more mean, if it was more vicious, if they were like showing people with like crack pipes, like passed out on the floor or something in a trailer, then I'd be like, all right, that's just being unnecessarily mean. But I don't even necessarily get like that much of like a mean spirit from this. This is literally just like, this actually does look like scenes that could be just taken in America, in fucking Missouri, in the Ozarks or something. I don't see like they're not wearing fucking clown hats or clown noses or anything. Like, I don't see it as vicious mockery. I just kind of see it as like, oh, this is actually the reality in America, especially middle America, which we proudly broadcast to the rest of the world via, properties and, shows like Duck Dynasty and all sorts of shit like that. So I don't think it's, out of question to satirize it. And sure, maybe it's not in the best of taste, but since when does comedy have to be in the best of taste? I mean, you could say Borat is in poor taste. We would both agree that's a brilliant piece of comedy.
Yeah, I don't know. I think for me, the beauty of Borat was the fact that like they know who the fucking enemy is, right? Like Sacha Baron Cohen doesn't think that those people that are out at the fucking rodeo are the people that are like, I don't know. And not that these Polish people do either. I'm just trying to I'm trying to say that, I don't necessarily love the idea of like making fun of poor people for their situation. And you know what, if that's not what these polls were trying to do, then you know what, fine. They have absolutely every right to dress up and fucking play however they want. I'm just saying from my like ethical line, like I'm not prepared to like dress up as poor people to live out their lives as if that's some kind of a game or a joke, regardless of where they come from, whether that's the deep South of America, whether that's like Oman, in the Middle East. Like I just wouldn't do that.
Another thing this honestly reminds me of is some of the backlash that Michael Moore received to his very first film ever, Roger and Me. And despite the fact that that film obviously is about Flint, Michigan, and it paints Flint, Michigan in a very sympathetic light, some people from Flint actually had a big problem with his portrayal of Flint, Michigan, because you'll remember a lot of points in that film, especially in the first half of it, he's showing just the utter poverty, the utter desperation of Flint. You remember there's characters that he puts in that movie, like the pets or meat guy, where it's like the guy selling, it's like, do you want meat or do you want a pet? Either one goes from his little like shanty shack or whatever. And some people were like, well, you're essentially just like making fun of this guy and you're doing it in order to make yourself rich and famous and to springboard your career into Hollywood based on the suffering of these people, even if it's under the guise of doing a good thing. And I totally disagree with that criticism too. I don't think Michael Moore was intending to just make fun of the pets or meat guy. I mean, despite the fact that it does come off in a little bit of a humorous way, I still think that's an important picture of or a part of the picture he was painting of the community that he was born and grew up in. So, I don't have a problem with that either. But again, it's a similar kind of debate. It reminds me of that.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that wins, I would say, gives credence to somebody like Michael Moore in that situation, from my perspective at least, and why I find it a little bit different, because I do think that Roger and Me is a masterpiece and one of the great documentaries to be made about America. Period. But that movie was about America, right? There was no question who the villain in that movie was. It was not that guy selling, and the whole broader point was about how the system that GM created resulted in that poor bastard having to sell meat and pets. And yes, that's a little bit of a like steer in your brain. And the other part of that I do think makes a difference is like, that was Michael Moore's life. Like, he grew up in Flint. That was his story to tell. Same way with like if somebody who had never lived what Harmony Korine lived and they made Gummo, I don't think it would be the same movie. And I think it would come across as a little bit more like judgmental, whereas like he lived it, he understood it, he made it. It was not a judgmental film. If it had been judgmental, I don't think it would have worked, right? That was like part of the beauty of the art, was capturing it without judgment. So again, I don't have any like malice towards these people in Poland. They have every right to do it. I'm just trying to work through my own emotional complexity about this, because I find myself in a weird fence-sitting position where I normally would not be when it comes to Cenk and Anna's show.
I do want to watch the rest of this because it does get even more explosive. I'm honestly surprised by how like intense this got.
It happening in the country? It definitely is. But no, I honestly think you have a skewed version of what the rest of the world sees. The rest of the world does not see the disaster of America. So now it's a little bit more obvious because of Trump and all the shootings, and even the rest of the world can see that. Oh, look, they hired Bozo the Clown to be their leader. Jesus, what is wrong with America? But even before Bush, No way. The entire world was like, oh my God, except for the people that we were every once in a while bombing or doing coups against. But even half of them we would trick with our propaganda. Thought America was amazing.
I know.
And then Iraq, we lose a little bit of steam, but not that much.
No, what are you talking? What are you basing this off of, Cenk? Okay, first time I traveled out of the country was in 2007, okay? Literally went to almost every European country during that trip. I was gone for a month, right? Hostility toward Americans was palpable, okay? Everyone hated us, everyone hated our government, everyone thought we were a laughingstock. It was just abundantly clear. I think you're actually living in a bubble because in America, we're not encouraged to learn about other countries. But other countries know about us, they learn about us, they know everything that's going on in America. So I get it. America, especially right now, has devolved. It sucks, doesn't take care of its citizens. People are drowning in medical debt. People are dying in mass shootings. It is a disaster. I will grant you that, okay? I'm just not interested in their cutesy little project where they're like role-playing Americans who are suffering in this country.
If you look, I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, if you said to people,
let me do it then. Okay, why don't we do a little LARPing community of Polish people and see how they like it? Would they take kindly to that? I would guess no. I would guess no. I could be wrong though.
I don't think they're trying to hurt us, Anna. I think they're trying to highlight the things that are wrong in America.
Yeah, okay,
and so that they could maybe on the off chance that we'll see it and maybe we'll want to fix it.
We live it, we see it, and obviously we want to fix it.
But you know what?
But more importantly,
this is their
hobby. This is like a fun hobby that they're doing. Do you not understand my point?
I understand it, but
if we were to do it with any other country, they would rain terror on us. You know that.
You know why? Because we're the bullies and we're the ones that are strong, unfortunately. And we go and invade countries and bully people, etc. Right? And so if you said to people across the world, oh,
look, I do agree with Cenk there. That is why, like the people that they're targeting, like I get it, those people aren't responsible, and that's where my sympathy comes from. Like I get where Anna's emotion is coming from too, because obviously those people have a plight. Obviously those people live in fucked up conditions. They don't need some motherfucker in Poland to tell them what it's like to be broke as shit in West Virginia, working in a coal mine and not getting by, right? Like that is not a joke to these people. That is their fucking reality. They don't need these Polish fuckers to come out and make fun of them. But on the other hand, we do live in America and we have been the biggest fucking pieces of shit on earth for the last like 100 years. And unfortunately, that's going to rain shit down on us. And I think you just kind of have to open up your umbrella and say, like, you know what, Anna, like you're 100, like I agree. This is, let's not punch down on poor people. These poor people do have hard lives. Nobody's arguing that. But let's just let these Polish people just do whatever the fuck they want to, because they
also, it's not like Poland is like a fucking utopia. Like, I feel like Anna's kind of acting like, oh, these people that come from this, absolutely perfect land where they have every right guaranteed and they're all, 100% well off. They're just, casting the stones at the weakest and poorest among us. Not necessarily. I think there's actually quite a bit of poverty in Poland. And actually they banned abortion before we did. I think it's technically still legal in cases of rape and incest. So obviously that's better than, here in Missouri, for example, but still, it's not like it's a perfect liberal utopia over in Poland. They have a lot of issues that they're working through as well. A big problem with far right, rising far right presence. And I know homophobia is also a huge problem in Poland. So it's not a utopia over there either.
Yeah, 100%. And look, it's like, from an ethical perspective, like, no, I don't believe in punching down at poor people anywhere, which is, I guess the bedrock of why I do agree with Anna in this one instance. But it's also like, I totally get where Cenk is coming from, that we bring this on ourselves with the way that we behave nationally. And the fact that, like, as you pointed out, Gavin, obviously American culture is so ingrained, and also what we do as a nation is so consequential to basically every other country. I definitely.
What about something like South Park? Do you think that's punching down? Because South Park is basically saying, look at all these like dumb, stupid, bigoted Americans living in small town Colorado, fucking hick country, essentially. Now, technically, that show is made by Americans. It's not made by Polish people. But would you also consider that punching down?
It kind of goes back to the Michael Moore philosophy. One, those people are making a show about where they grew up. They're making a show about their lived actual experience, right? And I just think that makes it a little bit different. I think if I make a show about my own fucking community and what I lived and what I saw and where the fuck I'm from, like, yeah, that's different than somebody that's, never been there, never set foot in your life, in West Virginia in their life, or, Mississippi or wherever. I just think that's a little different, right? Like, I think that if those Polish people want to make a fucking satire about Poland, that's different than if I sat out to satirize, whatever the fuck the Andrzej Duda or whatever the fuck their president is, who's like, kind of a piece of shit.
Fair enough, but I'm not going to deny that I laugh at the first 10 minutes of Borat when they're in Kazakhstan and they portray it as like a back in the fucking, you know what I'm saying, like when it's just a total comedic take on what it's actually like to live there, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, dude, that's fucked up that you bring that up, because it's a fucked up gag, dude. It is really it is fucked up that they make that scene, and also checkmate. Like, I laugh hysterically when that happens, but my brain is telling me it's wrong though. So
anyway, this debate is almost over. I think there's like 1 minute left, so let's quickly finish that up before we get out of here.
Well, poor America, don't make fun of them. Those guys are obviously suffering. That is not the impression people have. They think that we're the a-hole bullies that are super strong and live in a land of milk and honey, and we go around and smash their stuff every once in a while. They don't think we're poor. They don't think we're suffering. They think that we're the bad guys.
This whole project is to point to the fact that we're poor.
No, but that's why this is an interesting story, because it's for the first time somebody going, oh, look at these poor Americans. Every other time it's, oh, look at these oppressive, but strong, rich Americans that are oppressing everyone else. And I got news for the rest of the world. I think Anna says you already know it, maybe you do. But for the rest of you that don't know it, no, we're suffering here. They let us die for profits in almost every industry. They squeeze all the wages out of us and give it to the rich. So when you see those spectacular Hollywood movies, that isn't our lives. That's the lives of the elites in America. The overwhelming majority are suffering greatly. Those LARPers, unfortunately, are a much more accurate depiction of America than any movie you've seen.